I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, December the 22nd. This is the last feeder flash we'll have before Christmas. I want to invite you guys to have this report sent directly to your phone in your text messages every day for free. Just text the word flash to 209 Corbett or 209-267-2488. You get that. It's a free service, just whatever it costs to have your text sent to you, which we all do plenty of that anymore. But you'll get that feeder flash sent to you. There'll be a link sent to you every business day, which we typically do this report, or I do this report every business day. I'm going to take a few extra days off here through the Christmas holiday because there's just basically nothing to talk about. I mean, I do pull a lot of this shit out of my rear end, but I can't pull it all out of there. I got to have something to talk about. But we won't have another feeder flash until next Tuesday, and we'll have one on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, and then we'll be shut down until after the first of the year because there's just not much to talk about. But going to try to pull together some year-end stuff, information to talk about for those two visits that we have next week, and we'll talk about whatever finishes up this week. We're preparing for the cold and the cattle on feed report here late this week as we get ready for the Christmas weekend. But frigid temperatures, and I mean it's going to be as bad as we've seen for a long time, especially up in the Midwest and Northern Plains. Of course, they're more used to it than a lot of guys, but I mean likely 30, 40 below. They're already starting to see it on the western side. Even down here in the southern plains, I mean, we're going to get below zero with high winds. I have seen some whiteout blizzard conditions up in Wyoming and places like that. And you know, for those animal rights people and folks that think that cattle producers don't treat their cattle well, how many of them would like to come out and help feed and break ice and do things like that whenever it gets bad like this? Of course we take care of the cattle. They're our investment. You know, that's what a lot of you do to make a living. Sometimes that's your only source of making a living, and to think that we would want to mistreat the cattle that provide us you know, our living, that's just unbelievable. But wish you guys the best of luck out there. Be careful. Take care of yourselves out there, because you know, it's dangerous out there whenever you get conditions like that, and you're got your mind to other places and you're not thinking about safety. But it's going to be rough out there the next few days for most of the country. I mean, basically the top 2/3 of the country are going to be in that, and then it looks like it's going to be wet and miserable down in the southeast too. So, and it makes it tough for people traveling for Christmas because the roads, a lot of those people aren't used to traveling all the time. They're very poor drivers on the ice and snow, and then it's going to be crowded and things. But I just fear there's going to be a lot of people that are kind of left without a place to be over the Christmas holiday due to these weather conditions, and likely the road conditions are going to be terrible and things too. But we got a cattle on feed report coming out Friday. I'm not going to talk to you until next week, but that cattle on feed report, we're excited about these right now. Normally we're dreading them, but they're set to be so bullish now that we're getting into the full bullish fundamentals here of tight supplies due to the just drought after drought in major production areas. And we're also in that cycle where we're getting light on cattle, but we're going to get lighter than what we've seen for long time, and it's the lightest we've been since cattle were at all-time record highs back in 2014. So we're likely going to be lighter on the number of beef cows in this country than we've been since the early 1950s. And you think, you know, we've got well over twice as many people in this country. Yeah, the cows are bigger, but not enough to absorb all that. Of course, we let several thousand people in a day illegally down on the southern border. Sure wish we could get that kind of stopped up a little bit and make them apply and do it in a legal way. But that's big story down here in Texas. I'm headed to South Texas right after Christmas, between Christmas and the New Year's, because I just need to travel, I guess. But headed to Cattleman's Columbus Livestock Auction on Thursday, the 29th. Going to be going down there to a commercial replacement bred heifer and bred cow sale down there with those good people, the Cattleman's people. They got the sale in Brenham, Texas. I've gone down there and done their bred cow sales many times. Now we're having one at Columbus. They've recently taken over at Columbus, which is nearly to Houston, long ways from my house, but I won't have to leave the state, thank goodness. But that's going to be noon on Thursday the 29th. They'll have a lot of those tiger stripe Brayfords in there. They've got a lot of bred cows. About 1,000 is what they're expecting, and 40 to 50 good breeding bulls. So if you guys are in that area, or if you're interested in that kind of thing, and you can't get to the sale, be sure to get on to dvauction.com. View and bid that sale. I'll be there taking the bids for Cattleman's Columbus Livestock Auction Special Bred Cow Sale on Thursday. Next Thursday, let's talk about your board on Wednesday. December live cattle futures were up $1.07 at 156.12. That's pretty good. That's going to be close to what our weighted average is for this week, although we haven't seen hardly any trade at all, only in Iowa, and I'll get you up to date on that. But it's right in there par with what the market is. February was up 212, pretty good gains. I saw gains on most all your commodities on Wednesday, but February live cattle ended trading at 157.70. Your back months were all higher too, from a quarter higher to $1.52 higher. With that higher market there, your April, which is the highest here for the nearby future, sitting at 161.17. I still think that's pretty optimistic. Next April sitting at 167.32. There's none any higher than that. A lot of these feeder cattle that are being bought have a 170 something break even. You guys are really optimistic. I realize things are good, but you've got to talk the packers into paying that big price. And with no more people than there are negotiating, it's going to be hard to get that price higher. And that's one reason I always talk about the lack of competition and the lack of people that are willing to negotiate on their fed cattle, because the big boys are all in a sweetheart deal. The number one thing you have to do to get into a sweetheart deal is promise all your cattle to one packer, eliminating competition. January feeder cattle up 20 cents at 183.82. March up 70 cents at 185.72. Back months on feeder cattle up 40 cents to up 87 cents. Grains were up too. Corn March contract up 10 1/4 cent. Closing regular trading at 6.62 1/4 cent a bushel. January beans up 2.5 cents at 14.81. Fat cattle trade, and we hadn't heard a peep out of any packer or anything until about midday Wednesday, and we started seeing some bids out there that were close to steady. The only sales that we saw that were confirmed were in Iowa, 2,300 head, 155 to 157, which is steady. 247, which is close to steady. Most of your dress sales were 248 last week, but that's close to steady. I assume we will see some more trade here. There might have been some more trade late Wednesday, but we'll see some trade here on Thursday, and I would suspect or almost bet you that they're just going to be steady. So I wouldn't know why anybody would take less, but we do have a storm coming in, but they're not going to take the cattle before then. They're buying the cattle for what kill they're going to have next week, so I'm not sure how that's going to help. The market usually loves a storm, so I wouldn't be surprised to see your futures higher through the holidays whenever they are open with the storms and the frigid cold weather, because we're going to lose a lot of weight, and cattle are still on tonnage, or beef is, and cattle by the pound. So that's going to be a lot of weight loss here over the Christmas holiday. Talk about box beef cutout values. They were mixed on Wednesday. Choice was down 19 cents at 264.86. Select's up 239 at 236.29. Slaughter 346,000 through the first 3 days of this holiday week, and yes, it's 18,000 less than last week, 17,000 less than the same week a year ago, but nearly all that loss was on Monday, because you had a major that was closed on Monday, and that was nearly all the loss. And we continue to see everybody talking about how the Packers are going to pull back on the slaughter. The losses we've seen have been weather shutdowns and planned shutdowns. They're not scaling that much back. They're still aggressive. They still got a lot of product promised out there and contracted. So they're going to stay right in here, guys, and we don't have to worry about them doing a major pullback on harvest here. But talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services is Dakota Moss there in Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma National Stockyards Exchange Building. They're the LRP specialist. He's got several other agents that work with him in every direction from there. But get a hold of them if you got questions about LRPs. I have got a lot of Feeder Flash gang members that have called and talked to Dakota or some of his other agents and just had questions. They're not going to pressure you into buying anything. They're there if you need them. So, just get a hold of them at Livestock Risk Services if you have any questions you have on LRPs. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction. Late in the day on Wednesday, sitting at 175.78, bleeding back some more with the lack of sales. Down 52 cents compared to the end of Tuesday's trading. Cattle and feed report on Friday. We're expecting it to be bullish, and I think that we've got room to be even bullish compared to the bullish estimates. But inventories for December 1st are pegged at 97.1 with the average of the analyst guess. Placements for November, 95.7. That's pretty aggressive, but I think they could be lighter than that. Marketing's 100.9. And we'll just have to see on Friday at 2 o'clock, or I think it may be a little early on Friday to see what the final results of that are. Let's talk about your sales. Normally on Thursday we talk about your big sale at OKC West El Reno Livestock Market in El Reno, Oklahoma. Did not have a sale. They will come back on January the 3rd. So they will have a sale that first week of the new year, where the city will not have a sale then. So the city had a sale on Monday, but no OKC West on Wednesday. But we will come back on January the 3rd with a sale out of El Reno, Oklahoma. Will be broadcast on DV Auction. So if you guys are interested in viewing and bidding OKC West sale, be sure that you get familiar with DV Auction. If you haven't been on there before, go on there and log in. All you got to do is put your email address in there. They will email you a login, and then you can change it to whatever you want, and then you're locked in there. But you want to be knowing that El Reno is going to be on DV Auction going forward, starting with the calf sale on January the 3rd. I talked to Clay Wing. He's a young fella there that I don't really know well. I've shaken his hand but don't know him well, but I do know his dad, Matt Wing. He gave me my first belt buckle when I was 5 years old, and I wore it throughout my school years, my school age years. And Clay's late grandpa, Larry Wing, was a partner of my dad's, and they had he gave me my first job. My first real job was running tickets at Cattleman's Livestock Auction in Dalhart, Texas, when I was just a little tyke. But know his family very well. But Clay Wing works for OKC West in El Reno, Oklahoma. He sent me some information. He's in charge of the cow sale there on Mondays. He told me that this past year at OKC West El Reno on their cow sale on Mondays, they sold 30,500 head of cows over this past year. And he said that was up 60% compared to 2021. That scares you a little bit. That was due to the drought over the summer. They were having huge cow sales, but he told me, he said, just watching who was buying and what was going on around there, he wouldn't expect more than 10% of those cows to go back to the country. They either left the country or the lion's share of them went to slaughter. Who did have a feeder cattle sale on Wednesday? Well, Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas had one, 1,900 head. The market was called unevenly steady in a light test. Wasn't really enough of any one class to call a market because they usually get better drags of cattle like that. But their next sale in Dodge City, Kansas will be the Weaned Calf Special. I think they call it the Bell Ringer, and that's going to be on January the 4th, so you can be looking forward to that. Your Zoetta Stickout Sale of the Day on Wednesday was Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. And you say, gosh, you're talking about Stockman's Livestock in Yankton all the time. Well, they have the biggest fat cattle auction in the nation, and then they have some pretty darn good feeder cattle auctions too, and they had the biggest by far of anybody on Wednesday, and they had 4,300 head of feeders through the ring there at Yankton, South Dakota. You look at this automated market report from Cattle Market Central, you look at your best tested weights, the market was lower. I mean, it's going to be lower this close to the holidays and with that big storm coming in, but that's likely why they had the bigger receipts as they did, because people wanting to get those cattle moved because they were going to lose weight over that, and if they were planning on selling them right after that, they'd figure they'd be better off selling them at this sale. And the market's still pretty impressive, especially on big, heavy cattle. But 504 head of 6-weight steer calves averaged 657 at 191.38. That was about $7 lower on the weighted average than last week. 760 head of 7-weight steers averaged 751 with a weighted average price of 180.53. That's about $10 lower. And we've seen that all around here, getting ready for this storm to come in and the holiday, kind of holding things up here. But your bigger cattle were higher. 818 head of 9-weight yearling steers, or they'd be short yearlings or big calves actually up in that country, weighing 946 with a weighted average price of 176.29. That was loads higher. And I'm going to give you some that blew my hat off, even heavier than that, for your top quote of the day. But look at the heifers. 324 head of 6-weight heifer calves averaged 657, a weighted average price of 174.85, which was about $3 lower than your weighted average from the previous week. How about some individual quotes? Albion, Nebraska. Albion Livestock there sold 110 head of steer calves, weighed 663 at 203.75, weighing in the heavy sixes, guys. I thought that was pretty impressive. How about Sterling, Colorado? Sterling Livestock Commission. They sell 57 steer calves in eastern ugly side of Colorado, 519 pounds at $2.40 a pound. My goodness. And you would think that would be your top quote of the day. But the most impressive quote that I saw on Wednesday in your Mackerson, no BS, top quote for the day, indeed come out of Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. You guys get ready for this and put a pencil to them. 140 steers weighed 1052 at 184.50. That guy's got to have some free feed. But I want to take this opportunity. We're here at DV Auction. We're proud we have the following we do on the feeder flash. We're proud we have as many production sales we do. We broadcast about 1,500 production sales on site every year here at DV Auction. We got about 100 commercial sale barns that we broadcast every day. We put together the National Beef Wire, the feeder flash. But I want to give a sincere and heartfelt Merry Christmas, heavy on the Christ, from the DV Auction clan, and you can see us right there. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.